Now let's continue by implementing the create and list items. And first of all, I will open the item policy to implement the logic of authorization. Let's make it in different ways this time. And I will open item policy. And as we can see here, when the user try to create a new item, I want to check here also the restaurant, right? And also the category. And I will say return user ID is the same of restaurant user ID. Let's add another equal here. And category restaurant ID is the same like restaurant ID, right? And instead of this, we can also make benefit from the relationship that we had defined. So we can say also here, instead of this, we can say restaurant user, right, is the user and is the current user, and also the restaurant, or sorry, category restaurant is the current restaurant that we will provide. It will also work using the relationships and foreign keys. And back to our OS service provider under app providers here, and I will say for item model class, use the item policy class also, right? It also has been called here. And let's remove these comments. After that, let's implement our store endpoint. Here I will say, first of all, let's make return true. And for name, it must be required. And image, it may be sometimes, and also must be an image with maximum of 2 megabyte. And for price, here it must be required, and it must be greater than or equal 0, because maybe some items may be free. After that, for description here, I will say it may be sometimes, and whatever number of letters, it doesn't matter, like name also, right? Now let's implement it our controller, and I will say this authorize, and I will say create for this method name, and I will provide parameters here also, as you can see. And I will say create I will say create item for restaurant in a specific category, and I will use these parameters also, restaurant as array, and also category here. After that, I will say use the helper or image uploader helper, use image uploader, and first item here, I will say item create request save and accept the image. And like what we did in category controller, we will do it here also while uploading an image here. And instead of category, I will say item and save it inside items folder. After that, return response JSON with message success operation, and also include the item in the response item. Let's make sure we have the image relationship inside item, and we don't have it, so I will say here function image, and it will be morph1, and return this morph1 image model, let's call it, and also the imageable relationship, the function name inside the image model. Now let's test it inside API.php is at the category or the endpoint. It will be also under categories. So I will create another prefix here because the root will be like this, as we can see on the screen. So I will say root prefix category. It will be dynamic, and function or group function root post. It will be also /item, right? Post here, and using item controller class with store method. Now let's test it also on Postman. I had created this collection, and just for category I will check the categories in our database. So for example, I will create a new item for category ID 19 using 32 restaurant ID here. Let's make sure the current user, but because I'm not the user, okay, I will change the owner of this restaurant to be user ID number 2 instead of relogging again. After that, I will say category or restaurant ID 32 here, 32 / category ID 19. Let's check. Open our server, artisan serve, send a request again, and also /item. Now the price is required. Great. Price, for example, 20, and let's select an image like this, and inside create inside the policy here inside our store. It will be also for item model class. We will specify the model to use it for item model, the item policy. Check again, and we must also use the category. So instead of using item directly here, I will say category items and using it here, right? And also using item variable. Back and check again, and has been created successfully, right? Now let's try, for example, with another restaurant ID that this category doesn't belong, and as we can see, the action is unauthorized because this category doesn't belong to this restaurant. Right now works correctly, and this also makes sure that description also works. Great food. Back and check our database for items, and as we can see here, new category. So let's make a new name, new item food. Check. As we can see, has been added successfully here with the description and also with the price. As we can see, for example, let's add a negative value. The price, as we can see, must be greater than or equal 0. Will be free and also works correctly, right? Let's check is the image uploaded or not. Inside images here has been created successfully. Also let's open the items ID 15, and we have images 15, and also let's make sure it exists in our system or our server by checking storage, apps, public, and now new items and the same image that we had used. Now let's implement the store or listing endpoint for index method here, and as we know, try to do it yourself. You can pause the video and create a resource and listing it. I will say PHP Artisan make resource and item resource and here item resource I will say return array with ID this ID, name this name, and also for price and description here price and description, and let's use it here by saying query or items equal to for also for restaurant category, or actually for directly here for category we can say item where category ID equal to the category ID and use paginate here for 20 per each page, and I will say return item resource collection and using items, right? And also I think we need to add a check actually for view, because we may use the restaurant. We will use actually the restaurant, so I want to make sure also the category ID or the category belongs to that restaurant. So I will say this authorize view any for item class or item model and passing restaurant and category also. After that, we will open the item policy to implement this in view any here using item policy, and the same here actually like this. And by using the same parameters that we had created or used inside create endpoint or method, now it will work correctly. It's check, and in our API I will create this using get and index. Use it again using list and slash category or restaurant 32 category 19 slash item, and as we can see here it returns and works correctly. And also the same for show category 32 slash 19 and item slash item ID. For example, items here maybe 15, but we need to implement it first quickly here for item and using show, and by using also restaurant and category, I will say return item source make item, and also I need to implement an authorization for this view, and I will pass also the item, and inside item policy I will say for view here it will also has category and item here, and I will say return same, and also the item and item category is the same of provided item or category here category. And here it's actually because it will be a public endpoint, I will say port if item category ID not equal to the category ID, or restaurant ID not equal to the category ID, right, with 404. And also I will use it inside index, because index also is endpoint, public endpoint, anyone can access to it. I will just say the restaurant ID must be same of category restaurant ID. Here is fixed here also restaurant ID, and now let's try it. And I will say also for index both index and show without middleware auth sanctum. Let's check in so anyone can access to it easily. Let's use another category ID with 0404 not found, and also let's check with another item that doesn't belong to this category ID. It will also 0404, right? Let's try the same thing for list. Works correctly, and even in the browser works as a guest. So now as we can see here, we have our root restaurant in this restaurant for that category list its items, right? Here's quickly how to create and list items. See you next video.